Hello, welcome to a quick movie vlog because I'm going to watch two films tonight, so I figured I'd make a video about it. How to Train Your Dragon and then How to Train Your Dragon 2, which I've both seen. I've seen both. I've both seen and I've seen both. When did How to Train Your Dragon come out? 2000...
I think it said 10.
Really?
No.
Is it that old?
I don't know.
Trusty Netflix has the first one. 2010, wow.
Yeah.
I definitely didn't see it when it came out then. I think we must have watched it like before the second one came out or something. So I have seen it. I remember really enjoying it and finding the black dragon really cute. Was it Night Fury? Well, Toothless is its name, but like I think the
Night Fury.
Night Fury, yeah. So I remember that much at least. So I remember liking it, thinking it was really good, and then the second one I thought was even better. Loved the second one, though I'm still a little bit raw. I mean, it's been like 5 years now, but I'm still a little bit raw.
Do you have the second one?
Yeah, I'm still a little bit raw that it won Best Picture at the Best Animated Picture at the Oscars that year when The Tale of the Princess Kaguya was up, which is like one of the best, I think, films ever made. Like, if you want to talk about art, like, that is just a masterpiece. Like, it's unlike any other animated film ever made. And How to Train Your Dragon 2 won, which really bugged me, but I loved it. So I just need to let go of that, kind of, because I haven't seen it since, but I remember really liking it and using it. I think a couple of shots of it in my 2014 cinema montage, because I really liked some of the shots in the sequel. So yeah, Netflix for the first one. I own the second one. I'm gonna try and make this as brief as I can, because the past few videos I've made in this week, I have rambled on for so long that it's just been ridiculous. So I'm going to try and keep this as concise as I can, even though I'm talking about two different movies. So I'll just give...
It would actually be nice, because if you're going to watch the second one tonight as well, I would want to watch at least part of it before I pass out. Right,
because you recently rewatched this, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so Connie's already seen this like recently,
a week ago or something.
so she's not going to watch it with me.
I'm going to have it on in the background.
You'll have it on in the background, so yeah. But yeah, so looking forward to checking. Well, not really, to be honest, I'm not looking forward to checking them out. I would rather be watching other films tonight, but we're going to see the third one tomorrow. That's the impetus for doing this. And as always with me, typically I've left it until the very possible last minute. So part of me doesn't want to be watching these tonight, but I'm sure I'm going to enjoy them once this starts rolling. So here we go. Deke. Just, I don't know why the Deke logo just came into my head then. Probably because the moon looked like a D. You ever seen that, the Deke logo? No? Okay.
Probably.
It just reminds you of that video. Dick! Which I'll probably edit in here for a really random reason, but yeah.
Just have homes or parents. We have dragons.
Longest opening scene ever. So my poor attempt at humour there was the fact that the title of the movie didn't happen until the very end. And it's quite a common thing these days, but there was once a point in time where I think it was like mandatory to have the title at the beginning. And I remember way back when George Lucas had to really fight over Star Wars because Star Wars doesn't credit the actors and stuff at the beginning. And so in fact I think he left the Directors Guild of America because of it or something like that. Anyway, the whole other sidetrack. So done with How to Train Your Dragon, and it's pretty great. Oh, and here we go. It's finally turning to the Netflix play more. I hate that shit. It's just let us enjoy the credits, for God's sake. Yes, really enjoyed it. I love the relationship between Hiccup and Toothless. And there's definitely, I mean, for me and Connie, I guess, we see Lily in Toothless, but I'm sure most cat owners would see something of their cat in Toothless. I think that the animators, the people behind this film, took a lot of characteristics from cats and put them into the dragons of the film. You know, from the purring and things like that, but mainly in the Night Fury, Toothless. And it's a good story. You know, it works well where we have this island, not even an island, the coastal settlement with these Vikings, and you know they fight dragons, they kill dragons. That's the tradition because the dragons come and raid their food and their livestock. And then of course you find out it's because the dragons are feeding their big huge monster dragon, and so you see a different perspective, and by the end of the film it's changed and the dragons become ingratiated with the community because of Hiccup, who is a small weedy little American kid. See, it's interesting how all of the big bearded Vikings all have Scottish accents, and then all of the young kind of the young Vikings are all American for some strange reason. I guess it helps with accessibility because it's an American film. And so Hiccup, scrawny little kid, the antithesis of what a Viking should be, is not interested in trying to kill dragons, or at least when he is finally confronted with his opportunity to kill a dragon, which is this Night Fury, who, as he says towards the end, he saw the same kind of element of being frightened in that dragon that he felt within himself. And so it's about an understanding, and you can take this and you can transpose it to, you know, how we view animals and how some people want to kill animals and are afraid of them, but ultimately it's there is a way to coexist. The music's really good. The cinematography is great. As far as the composition, the way things look, the colors, the actual animation, or I don't know if you call it the rendering of it, or the level of detail and the texturing, I think maybe is the thing that really dates it. 2010, so it's like 9 years old at this point. They're probably working on it for a few years, so about 10 years old really. And compared to films that are similar to this from more recent years, I think the not the animation, because I don't know, to me the animation is the way things move, but the way it looks, the texturing and so on, being digital animation, hasn't aged incredibly. It almost looks like those spin-off kind of DreamWorks Netflix series that they do. Where
no, come on.
I said almost.
If you put one of those on, you would see how wrong you are.
Okay, I'm gonna put one on now.
Oh, don't.
I'm not. I said almost by comparison to newer things. I'm excited to watch the second one just to see the leap in quality. But there were moments where I was like, "Ooh, there's the texture isn't really that good," but the story more than carries it, and again the composition and the way that it's all put together and framed and lit and colored as well. There's some really nice sequences as far as that's concerned, and you know it gets a little bit typical. You know, when you have the father saying, "You're no son of mine. I have no son." And then, you know, instantly he's like, "Oh, yeah, I'm so proud to be your father." Like it turns very quickly, as you would expect it to. But I think that it's a well drawn out story, and I really like it a lot. I think it's great. I really enjoy the setting where Toothless is kind of living for a while on the. I keep jumping to the island, but in the area in the woods, this kind of I don't know what you even call it. It's not an alcove. It's just it's like a little what would you call it? That area where they kind of bond in. It's like a little.
Everybody knows the place in the island.
It's not an island. You know what I'm talking about if you've seen the film. That area, with the little lake and stuff. I just really like that setting, that location. It's not a valley. It's a small little. A valley is where it's like two mountains, and you know, like. I was also thinking when the film started, did Vikings call themselves Vikings? Did they think of themselves as Vikings, or was that a term that was invented after the fact? And Connie was like, no, and then she looked it up, and apparently, they didn't. So, kids' movies, giving you the push to learn a little bit of history, one step at a time, one movie at a time. So on with the second film. and I think it almost hurt it a little bit because there's a moment in the second film that I love, and I just thought nothing in this film is gonna come close to that. So when it came to the climactic fight at the end, which was really well done with the huge dragon, I just thought, well, it's not that, it's not the big scene at the end of the second one. So yeah, I just kept thinking about that actually. So anyway, on with the second one.
The second one only once.
Yeah, I think I've definitely only seen both of these films once. Well, now I've seen this one twice. So on with the second one, and yeah.
This is Burke, the best kept secret this side of, well, anywhere. Granted, it may not look like
Already looks so much better.
Packs more than a few surprises.
So this was 2014, quite a few years after the original, so just generally, you know,
is amazing. Just not for the faint of heart.
that stuff just progresses and evolves.
Most folks enjoy hobbies like whittling or needlepoint.
Like even those sheep
Europeans prefer
look so much better.
a little something we like to call dragon racing. Oh sure, they have armies and they have armadas, but we have our dragons.
Okay, before we get to my thoughts on How to Train Your Dragon 2, a little amendment to what I was saying earlier, which I could have just cut out, but I'm going to leave it in. How to Train Your Dragon 2 did not win the Oscar for Best Animated Picture of 2014. It was Big Hero 6, which equally is a really good animated film that isn't, for me, the best of that year. And I also had forgotten that Song of the Sea was also nominated that year. So, you know, How to Train Your Dragon 2, Big Hero 6, two really, really good animated films with a lot of heart, and, you know, that they're so well done. But then you have Song of the Sea and The Tale of the Princess Kaguya, like masterpieces, like absolutely beautiful films that are among the best in the form of animation, I think. There's also The Box Trolls, which was very good, and I love stop motion, but again, doesn't quite fit. They just had two incredible films that year, and neither of them won. So, yeah, I guess just in my head, I was like, How to Train Your Dragon 2, really? And I just kind of transposed it in my head, or it was the Mandela effect that I thought that it had won. But, yeah, I mean, I say I resented it. I didn't really. I was just saying that for kind of quasi-dramatic effect. But anyway, on with the video. Alrighty, it's like 11:30 and done with How to Train Your Dragon 2. I'm kind of proud of myself, to be honest, because usually when I task myself to watch more than one film, unless I'm doing like a marathon or something, I always end up procrastinating and finishing at like 2-3 o'clock in the morning. So yeah, it's not even bedtime for me, and I've done 3 movies today. Actually, I watched one before this little thing. So it's been a productive movie watching day. And how did I enjoy How to Train Your Dragon 2 for the second time around? Not as much as the first time, I have to say. Which isn't to reflect negatively on the film. I really enjoyed it. I think it's again, I think these films are really, really good. And I love the Toothless Hiccup relationship and everything else around it. I really, really like the introduction of Hiccup's mother in the film. I was really heavily reminded of in last year's Aquaman. If you've seen that, you'll probably understand, and if you've seen this film, you'll understand, I think, where I'm coming from. Because when that happened in Aquaman, I was like, oh, How to Train Your Dragon 2. So that part really stood out to me when I saw the film all those years ago. And now, I like that element of the film. But I do think that Cate Blanchett's Scottish accent isn't quite up to scratch. It's a little bit off, and it just distracts me just a little bit. So I wasn't as taken with her side of the film this time round. But I think her introduction is incredibly memorable, and I think that right from the get-go, again, I hasten to say the animation because it's not really the animation that's different. It's the quality, the production quality of the texturing and the CGI and everything that goes into modeling and rendering these characters. The hair looks so much better. It's a quantum leap. It really is a night and day difference. The shadowing, you know, just awesome. Like, it just looks so much better. And I only wish the first film looked that good, because that kind of just didn't diminish my enjoyment of the first film. But throughout the first film, I kept going, oh, that doesn't quite look as good as, you know, these days. Or even, you know, a film that's at this point 5 years old, How to Train Your Dragon 2, looked a lot better than the first film. I like the story. I like certain elements of the story, and again, the moment at the end where Toothless kind of faces off against this like unbelievably large dragon is such a cool sequence. But I remember it being even more impactful. I remember getting choked up the first time I saw it. Not so much this time, but it was still a really badass, cool moment. And yeah, I love the progression. I love that it takes place 5 years later, so you get to see how different things are in Burke, the main location for the film. Well, actually, it's not actually the main location for the film because they go all over the place, but the main location for our heroes in the story. You know, where was I going with that? Yeah, so you see the difference because, you know, the dragons have now been kind of fully integrated into the community, and they have, like, I love how they all the little details where they have little water systems around the village, so that if a dragon accidentally breathes fire, they can just put out with a water rig quite easily, and they've learned to kind of live and love the dragons, live with and love the dragons. And yeah, there's some really nice moments in this film. The cinematography, again, the framing and composition and the use of color is really great. And actually, in the credits of both films, it said that Roger Deakins, one of the all-time great cinematographers, was a visual consultant on the films. When I saw his name, I thought, wow, there's no way he did the cinematography as well. But no, he was a visual consultant. Not sure what that entails, but having his name on the film, having any kind of semblance of his fingerprints on the visual look of this film, I think really show, because there's just some stunning moments of visual wonder that really help in stories like this. They're great kids movies. They're phenomenal kids movies. I can imagine kids loving these films a lot more than I would now at this point. I think if I'd grown up with them, there'd be more of a nostalgia for it. But I think it works as an adult as well. You know, you definitely have those in the camp of, well, it's just kids movies. You know, it shouldn't be for you. And it's just no, it's really good storytelling, and I really enjoy these films. And I'm now looking forward to seeing the third one tomorrow. A little bit disappointed it isn't just called How to Train Your Dragon 3. They're now calling it How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World. And in this one, the second one, we saw a hidden world. So is this going to be in the third one the hidden world? I'm not sure how that's going to work into it, but I've seen a poster, and it seems like there's a white variant of the Night Fury, which seems like a logical next step for the series, the franchise. I think I heard some rumblings that it is going to be the final film as well, which I think is probably again, you need to start in general, the Hollywood industry, I think, needs to start realizing that sometimes it's in a story's best interest to have an ending. You know, I'm surprised, but really thankful that How to Train Your Dragon hasn't become a cinematic universe. You know, I'm glad that they haven't tried to pump these movies out every couple of years. You know, there's now, I guess, so 2010, 2014, 2019, so there's been like 4 to 5 years between each sequel, which is really good. I think it gives time for everything to get better as far as the animation goes, but also the story has a logical. I say logical. I mean, you could make How to Train Your Dragon 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and release one every year and set them 10 years after each other. It would work. It would be logical. But the fact that we have the real world, you know, passing of years, it just feels more neat, I think. So when this film starts and it's like, oh, it's been 5 years, and it's just like, yeah, it's almost been 5 years between both films being produced, and so I like that. For me, it's a nice, comfortable thing that you actually have that span of time, which is neither here nor there. But yeah, I really enjoyed this, and I think that now, having watched them both again and revisiting them tonight, I think that my favorite is actually changed to the first one. I think the story is a little bit more clean, you know. There's a lot going on in the second one, not to the point where I'd say it's messy, but I think that I prefer the through line of the first film. And there's often in films that have, you know, a sequel or multiple sequels where you have a character that you really love, or two characters, or like a group or a duo that gets set up, and then by the time you get to the second movie, you know, like I'm trying to think of a good example. Spider-Man 2. We open the film, he's Spider-Man. You know, we don't have to set anything up. He's Spider-Man. We hit the ground running. As great as the origin story is, that there's something fun about diving right into the sequel, and everything is set up, and now we get to dig even deeper to these characters and so on. You can do the same with Star Wars and other franchises like that. So for the most part, I tend to really like the sequels, where it's like, okay, we don't need to set anything up as far as our characters. We just need to now progress them and put them through bigger challenges. But I would say that with this series of films, I prefer the origin story of Toothless and Hiccup. I really like that story that grows between them. And so I think they did a good job with, again, How to Train Your Dragon 2 opens right up with them, you know, completely in sync with each other, and that's great to see. They've changed things up, and how he's kind of building things, like his own flight suit. He's an inventor, and of course he lost his leg in the first film, so he is in a way the same as Toothless, has a part of himself missing that he needs to kind of have an artificial replacement. And yeah, so I liked all that stuff, but I think I prefer the getting to know each other, you know, almost the meet cute between Toothless and Hiccup. I really like the progression of their relationship, so I think I slightly prefer the first one, even though the second one looks so much better. But yeah, I just think that the through line of the first one I enjoy a little bit more, but there's not too much distinction between the two of them as far as that's concerned. But the second one is a bit more enjoyable in the sense that it looks so much better, and that's really nice. And there's a couple of funny moments too. There's some good humor there. It doesn't try to bash you over the head with jokes, which I really like. And I love the wonder of the hidden world in the second one, where Hiccup meets his mother and finds this hidden kind of cavern of wonder where all these dragons are, and this huge white dragon, which was gorgeous. So I love that sequence. And the villain was a little bit stock, you know. In the flashbacks, he was kind of built up to be a real presence, and then, you know, he has presence in when we finally meet him, but a little bit generic, kind of dragons take over the world, you know. So maybe that's it as well. That the first film, the villain is really almost in a sense Hiccup's dad. Not really, but you know, he's kind of the main obstacle that needs to be overcome. And then we have this huge dragon in the first one that's kind of the quasi villain. Again, he's not really a villain, but the main, you know, stepping stone, roadblock, whatever you want to call it, the main kind of pivotal point that needs to be overcome in the first film is Hiccup's father's stubbornness to you know, to not change his mind about the dragons. So I prefer that slightly than in the second one. It's just a villain who, you know, wants to use dragons and kind of, you know, rule them and kind of all that, and not really respect them, which is nice. I mean, it's nicely done, but I think I prefer the first one just a little bit. So I'm intrigued to see the third one, to see what that will offer. I haven't even seen a trailer, which is cool. So I'll be kind of wowed, hopefully, for the first time with a lot of the cool visuals and stuff. And that's about it. So thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Leave your thoughts down below on any of the films in the series. By the time I post this, I will have probably seen the third one, so you can discuss the third one down below if you want as well. And maybe, just maybe, I'll do a video on the new film. So that's it. Connie went to bed. She is no longer in the vicinity of the living room. She was falling asleep about half an hour before the film ended, so she'll probably catch up with the last 20 minutes of the How to Train Your Dragon 2 in the morning before we leave to go to the cinema. That's it. Thank you for watching. Oh, that really hurt my eyes.
He's alright by me. Apart from the fact he throws cans of Carlin into a tree. Yeah, he's really cool. Yeah, he's really cool. But he's not quite as cool as you, 'cause